We get along very well, and even now a lot of my friends have suddenly started going to Dubai and Bahrain, and they say the hospitality there is unmatched, given by my Muslim brothers. And furthermore, the Turkish Empire, that was a Muslim, the Muslim conquered from Turkey, the Ottoman Empire. We had a great relationship as well there.
It doesn't matter.
Is interesting because we don't have enough people who acknowledge the things we have in common, and instead of the political, which is something
we can all blame the British for that if we want.
Of course, and as far as I believe, you appear to me to be an Orthodox
I am.
Jew. I mean, and it's known that you guys don't believe in the Zionism. Or is it accurate for myself to say so?
It's a very complicated word, the word Zionism, what the word Zionism means. Because there's the meaning, the literal meaning for Zionism is a hope to Zion. And a hope to Zion is part of Judaism through its core. It's as Jewish as anything else. It's as Jewish as the Torah. That means that we pray 3 times a day. We mention Zion, a yearning to return to our homeland in every prayer. Countless 50 to 60 times at least in every single prayer, there's a hope back to Jerusalem.
The question,
but the political state as it is today, a secular state, where it does not follow the words of the Torah, then yes, and as an Orthodox Jew, this type of setup can't work and isn't part. But I come to a very big but again. Judaism isn't just a religion. It isn't just a religion.
It's a way of life, I assume.
Because it's more than that, because that is as follows. That means is, when you talk about Judaism, you can't be an atheist Muslim, can you? You can't be an atheist Muslim. You can't be an atheist Christian. Because if you're an atheist, then you don't believe in the religion, then the religion is over. In Judaism, you could be an atheist Jew. Why? Because the Jewish people come from a location, a geographical location called Judah.
Not through lineage?
One second. You come from a geographical location called Judah, yeah?
Okay.
Judah is a place in Israel, yeah? That means that when the Jews were thrown out of Judah, the people of Persian Iran, as who are these people? They said they are the Jews who come from Judah. Now, these people are Jewish if you're born through a Jewish mother. But these people, they have a religion, they have a culture, they have a yearning for a homeland. So the person who is not a religious Jew, he still has an identity as a Jew without the religion. It is a sad reality. You do dawah and Muslims to bring people into Islam. We do something called kirif to bring Jewish people back within the Jewish fold, and to understand that yes, you have a culture, you have a yearning to your homeland where you come from a geographical location, but as well embrace the religion. But being 2,000 years in exile, and it's been a very rough ride, people have said it's too much to carry with me, and you know what, we'll just keep the culture or just the language, Hebrew, and throughout that, so people have dropped the religion. They still are as Jewish as I am, born from a Jewish mother, even without practicing the religion and without doing the 3 prayers a day and without putting on tefillin and without saying the Shema before you go to bed and without following the 613 strict rules of Judaism. So that's why it's my religion as a Jew can't trump the right from a Jew who isn't religious on his simple right that he's a Jew.
So you guys don't have a concept of rejecting your religion, like being an apostate?
Is it because it's a mix between the religion and the
it's not just as history also, because you could convert into Judaism, and once you convert into Judaism, you're as Jewish as a person born into Judaism. So it's a very, there isn't a word in English that would fit perfectly well what a Jew is.
You believe if someone becomes a Jew, they're already a Jew anyway?
No, then
their spirit was Jewish.
You could say that they had the spirit Jewish, but the main point is, in the physical term, is he becomes as Jewish from the minute he converts to Judaism. That means he goes through the circumcision, he accepts the Torah as the true word and the only true word of God, and he embraces Judaism, and it's a long process. It's not a process where you just say Shayada and you become a Jew. It's a long, very hard process to go through. But if you come through the other side, then you're as Jewish as any other Jew who's born to a Jewish mother.
How do the community? How do they welcome? Are they welcoming to converts, or is it a bit up and down?
No, it's very welcoming to converts. There's an extra commandment in the Torah to embrace a convert. So people always ask, once he's a convert, he's Jewish anyway, why do you need this extra to say he's come through a difficult journey? Be extra careful to make sure that you respect and you give that extra care to a convert. So once you are a convert, you're welcomed as much as any other Jew. So that's why I say it's not just a religion and it's not a race.
Yeah.
There is no word in the English dictionary that would fit perfectly well into the definition of what a Jew is.
It's almost like you've joined the tribe, but the tribe's got lots of different sectors.
Yeah, and it's run by its own rules.
Yeah.
But would that apply to the early community, let's say around the lifetime of Prophet Moses? Your definition, would that
Our
apply to
definition
them?
of a Jew is...
Or does it evolve?
The definition of a Jew
terms
is
of
that means there
theology?
was a revelation from God at Mount Sinai, a public revelation, where God came to the Jewish people and he made a covenant with them, a deal that you accept the Torah and we'll have an everlasting embrace between the two. Even if, in the Torah it says, even if at some point stage in your history in the future you will leave God, God will never lose hope with you that you will return and accept again the yoke of the Torah.
Would that, okay, what about prior to Moses? Let's say Noah times.
Noah wasn't a Jew.
It's impossible for Noah to be a Jew, but was he a believer?
You sure he was a believer?
So do you believe in his... Okay, if he was a...
Yeah, okay, my friend wants to go. So let's answer this question.
Say again?
No, my friend is...
Oh, do you have to go? No,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Okay, have a
All
good
right,
week and
nice
enjoy.
to see you.
Peace be on you.
Bye. So,
Alhamdulillah, look, it's finished. We're going to go eat.
the lady... Oh,
Normal height, like you're not much taller than.
oh yes.
Joseph Cohen was here earlier.
How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing? What's going on?
I thought you don't handshake non-Jewish. I'm just
Just
joking.
you're special. Just for you.
Oh, a special
Yeah,
treatment.
only for you,
Oh,
because
okay.
we like you.
Oh,
like it.
oh,
Yeah.
that's
No idea who you are, but I like
We've got
you.
a book of Goyim that we like. You're in that book.
Really,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Going back
There's
to
a
my
list.
point.
got a list.
If you mind, if we could go back to the
Thousands
point,
of years old.
because you stood at. Sorry, just a question. Going back to the question I was asking you earlier.
Yeah.
Going back to the point of the lady there, where she was.
I don't know what she was talking about.
While you were there listening
Yeah, I
to her.
know, I wasn't really
Oh,
paying
she
attention.
were all over.
She was going all over the
Okay,
place.
but the point I was making in terms of the relationship between the Muslims and the Jewish community
Yeah.
is that throughout the history, we've never been in conflict.
I think we have been sometimes.
Yeah, occasionally, that's normal, like fathers and kids and wives and, family issues.
I wouldn't say it was that light. I think it was far
Yeah, of
worse
course,
than that.
political and agreements and treaties from that context.
Discrimination.
Possibly,
persecution.
possibly. But is the point I'm trying to make? Individuals doing something to the Jewish community under the law, like let's say, because you are a Jew, does it mean that you won't break a law?
No,
If
of
you
course
break
not.
a law, you're gonna be prosecuted.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you, and that just because a Muslim does something doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's Islam.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the point.
What I will say though
Yeah,
is that where you have actual caliphates that have their own interpretation of the Quran, and based on their interpretation, they do things in a certain way. Then one who is not a Muslim and doesn't really have a horse in the race as to which interpretation of the Quran is right, is able to say, well, this is actually an Islamic. So, for example, when
do you mind just to just make a short point on that? Equally, throughout every civilization, such as the Romans, they had citizens and the barbers.
Okay.
So equally, every community has a sort of status to those who belong, because and I believe amongst the Jewish community,
Okay.
you still have this concept of where your community is structured based upon religion, bloodline, or tribe.
Okay, yeah.
So
I-
if the society is structured that way, now we live in a completely different system.
Fine.
First time in the history of mankind.
I'll give you an example, right?
Not first. The Romans were very
I'll give you an
international,
example.
so-
Have you heard of Zaidiya?
Zaydiya or Zaydiya?
Zaidiya.
Okay.
Zaidiya is a sect of Islam.
Yes.
Right? It's very dominant in Yemen.
Yes.
And they're one of the Shia groups, but they don't have idols and they don't have images, a bit like the Sunnis. And they throughout history at different points have been in charge in Yemen. Now they have their own interpretations of the Quran and they've got their own hadiths. And one of the things that they believe in is that all orphans of non-Muslim families should be taken away and given to Muslim families and be made to be Muslim. That's the Zaydi opinion. And so when the Zaydis were in charge, they would enforce this. It was known as the Orphans Decree. And who were the non-Muslims in Yemen? They were the Jews. And so in Yemen there were no Christians.
From the Abyssinian Empire, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
There were, yes.
So what used to happen was, whenever you had a case where the parent of a Jewish child died, the Zaydi authorities would try to would kidnap the child, even if there was still another living parent.
It's like slavery.
And they would.
It's like
and
slavery.
they would send
Some
them,
people were
and they would give them
unjustly
to a.
enslaved.
They would give them to a Muslim family, and they would be brought up as a Muslim instead. In some cases, what the Jewish community used to do was they used to, as soon as a parent died, they would marry off the child to a fellow orphan or something, or to another child,
protect.
because if they were married, then they weren't to be allowed to be taken. And I read an article, not an article, I saw an interview recently of this very elderly Yemenite Jewish man in Israel and his wife. They were both orphaned on the same day, and so they were married to each other when he was 9 years old and she was when he was 11 and she was 9, and they have been married ever since, and they're in their 90s. And they've got many descendants in Israel. But anyway, so this was something that was done, and it was based on their interpretation of either the Quran or the Hadith
I
or
would
something.
call it ijtihad, which is an effort to reach the best outcome possible.
Right.
In between this Islamic, is something natural amongst humans.
Right. So this is what the Zaydis did, and they did it because of their
But this is
interpretation
not
of Islam.
discriminating or killing or prosecuting.
This is kidnapping children.
Well, that is a good way to interpreting that event. But we're talking about orphans, and like for example, what determines someone's citizenship? Okay, what do I mean by that? For example, you're right. Salam, no problem. For example, if we go to Calais, I don't know if you ever drove through the Eurotunnel tunnel
Right, yeah.
in the English Channel.
Yeah.
You see migrants who look
yeah.
just like me from a different part of the world, and just for the fact I was born in a different place, I have some privileges where someone who shares exact same genetics, ethnicity, and shares a lot with me is not a citizen.
Yeah.
So we are privileged in some elements but who determines who is a
Whereas
citizen and
wherever
not?
it is that they've come from, they're citizens there. Whereas you're not a citizen there, or maybe you are. I don't know.
No, I'm not. But
Where-
the point I'm trying to make is basically we don't determine these things. There are laws. Like for
Are
example.
you Ethiopian, by the way?
No, I'm not. No, I'm just giving a vague
I'm just
example.
trying to work it out.
Oh,
'cause-
I'm black Portuguese.
oh,
Yeah,
what, like
it's very.
Angola?
That is one of the Portuguese former colonies. Myself is Cape Verde and
Oh.
Guinea-Bissau.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know how
I've never met anyone
familiar.
from there.
Are you familiar with Santumi and Prince?
Of who?
Santumi.
No, I'm not.
Basically, Santumi, during the Crusades, Portugal was formed by Crusades, basically.
Yeah.
Sao Tome and Principe.
Yeah.
Oh, so Toby and Principe.
Yeah, I didn't know how to, the English,
pronounce it in English, yeah. Sao
way
Tome and
to
Principe.
Yeah,
say it,
Yeah.
but
Off the coast.
the Portuguese, they took a lot of the Jewish kids and sent them there.
Yeah.
Are you familiar
I
with
am
that?
familiar with that, yeah.
It's a very
Yeah.
sad story.
Yeah.
But if we would compare what the Inquisition done to the Muslims and the Jewish community in Spain, and whatever you might say that any caliphate, any interpretation of Islamic sects have done in a normal relationship, like you said, they would kidnap the kids to convert them to the Islamic faith. Can you compare these two actions? An orphan who's been given rights, a Muslim rights, who the state believe that they have the right to, like foster family.
Right.
You understand? What's the difference? You see the comparison between both of them?
Okay. So
It's massive. Spanish Inquisition and
okay. So
you can't really compare.
That's true. I can't compare those things. Right? I have to compare like with like. So, for example, I can compare the orphans decree with various times when Jewish children were taken by the Christian states to be raised as Christians.
Yeah.
Those two things are comparable.
Orphans, because you made the detail that the Fatimid Caliphate would Zaydid Caliphate or Sultan or whatever they were in that region at the time, they would take orphans. You specified orphans without both parents, I would assume, or without.
Even without one.
Maybe it's referred to the father if he goes in accordance to the Islamic traditions. Maybe because the kids didn't have a means of survival, and the mother didn't work or have the means to look after them, the state saw that they were in charge, so the way they would take that burden from the family was to be raised by another family, even if they had to be converted to Islam. So it's not something really, I don't see that as a oppression. Unlike the black community, who've been kidnapped, enslaved,
and castrated
and
by the Arabs.
forced,
Have you ever wondered why there's no native black people in the Middle East despite the Arab slave trade?
They are.
No, I didn't. They were all castrated.
The earlier generations that were enslaved were castrated, so therefore they couldn't have children in the area.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah, this is scary.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
But again,
Even the Europeans
Can I
didn't do that.
make a point about that?
That's insane.
Can I make a point about that? Yeah. It's incredible to see how many black Muslims there are, despite that, which shows that in Islam, we don't hold Arabs as any higher than an Ajam, so someone who's not Arab. Like me and an Arab, in front of God is the same.
I hope for your sake that's true.
It is though.
yeah, it is. From an Islamic,
that is literally word for word.
there are
the
tribalism which even exists amongst black people in Africa. Some tribes believe they're superior, even amongst the Asian, the caste system, even amongst you Jewish community.
That's Hindu. That's
you
Hindu.
believe
No.
prior to Islam, prior to Islamic practices.
No, he was talking
there's
about
something
in
The capital
Asians.
of Pakistan is in north of England.
But this
Oh,
is.
yeah.
But going back to my point, even amongst the Jew, they believe that the Ethiopian Jew are not as pure or as
that's
equal.
different, right? I can't
It's
even
not actually
compare
true though.
Where you from? You are
The
from
argument
North
about the Ethiopians
No,
is whether or not they are
Yorkshire.
actually Jews. It's not a question of because if they are Jews, we agree that they're equal to
Yorkshire's
us.
that whole side, isn't it?
But if they're not Jews, then they are the same as all non-Jews. One second. Hello?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
10 to 6. Thank you.
Sorry, Bilal.
No problem, you guys are welcome.
No, he's doing the camera, innit?
He just got here now. So I see your point.
There are genuine questions.
Come closer.
You made about
It's put this day that before I came here, I was looking for this booklet I have, and at the end of the booklet, it's got a thing about the Ethiopians and the whole question about the tradition of
I
theirs.
have a book on that as well.
Right, so it's by Kaplan.
I have even the audio version. the
Because today I couldn't find the booklet.
Oh, no,
I ended up not bringing it. Anyway, there are genuine questions about their tradition and about the Ethiopian.
Can I ask you a question while he's here?
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of social media?
I don't. I'm on Discord, but that's basically.
Have you?
it.
But you know, Discord has a lot of chat. It's like a lot of people talking. Have you heard of? So I mean, obviously, I'm only seeing it from a social media point of view. That coming of Yeshua.
Oh yeah.
So what's going on with that?
Basically, Christians in the last 60 years have decided that Jesus have realised that Jesus has got a really, really bad name amongst the Jews because of all the persecution they suffered under the Christians. And the
Sorry if I interrupted you.
No, please carry on.
and
I'll just ask you a question.
the solution that they have come up with in order to try and convert us, because even the most secular Jew is repulsed by the idea of Jesus, right? It's become an innate part of Jewish society.
Like an
Jewish culture.
innate predisposition is to completely be against Jesus.
It's like, we are very much against it. And so what they decided to do was they decided to Jew it all up. Let's try to make it all sound a bit more Jewish
Yeshua
and use a bit
Jesus.
of Hebrew here. So instead of saying Jesus, we'll say Yeshua, and instead of saying convert to Christianity, you'll say you become a completed or fulfilled Jew. And
this is
instead
the
of
book.
saying New Testament, I'll say Brit HaKadashah, which means New Covenant in Hebrew.
This is the book I was telling you about.
Oh,
Are
right.
you familiar with this
I'm
book? Look into it.
I'm not familiar with the book, but I'm familiar with the author because I have another book of his at my house.
Okay, he's an expert in, when it comes to
But there's
the
another book. I don't know if you have access to the internet here.
Hotspot here.
But there's another book written by a fellow called Kaplan, I forget the first name, about the history of the Ethiopians. But there's a really great booklet where at the back of it there's a very good summary of that book about the Ethiopians and the question of their tradition and whether they are actually Jews. And the conclusion I got from it is that actually it's very unlikely that they are Jews.
Okay.
There are serious questions.
What is it called?
So the booklet or the book?
Both. Booklet first.
So the
and then-
booklet I can find very easy because it's on a website called Judaism's Answer. I'll go down to it.
Gonna have to put that one in the bed, bro.
And it is. It starts on page 48. A little bit before that. So it starts here and it goes till the end. On page 45. So this is one thing.
What's the other book?
The other thing is basically the thing that he's quoting from the entire time, and it's
Oh,
called.
okay.
Because the reason I use the book is because he actually quotes from the book. So the book
Gives you the reference?
is Stephen Kaplan, The
Oh,
Better
that's
Israel
great.
Flash in Ethiopia, New York and London. York University.
That's great. I will look into it.
Very interesting stuff. But it seems historically that they're not actually Jews, and that what actually happened was they're actually a split off from the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church.
Okay.
It seems to be a split off group that ended up rejecting Jesus and accepting more of the Old Testament practices that ended up making them think that they were. That's why they adopted the name Beta Israel, and then that's how they ended up with similar practices to us. But
Interesting.
they don't have a solid tradition.
So would you then classify the black as a race impossible to be Jew?
Absolutely not. I've got friends who have converted
No, I'm
and are
not.
blacks.
I'm not referring to those who adopt the Jewish faith,
Isn't that
but those
your
who
mum
are.
has to be Jewish?
Your mum has to be a Jew. So technically speaking,
No, I'm
if
referring
mixed- are they mixed
historically.
race?
Yeah, I know. So
My point is historically.
Yeah, historically, yeah.
historically, I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't actually know. Maybe there are, right? It's possible, right? I know that genetic testing has been done that shows that the Lembas do seem to that there's a little. Have you heard of the Lembas?
Lembas, no.
They're,
Where are they
they're a
based?
tribe in Zambia.
Zimbabwe.
No, not Zimbabwe. In Zambia.
Bordered anyway, so it's same
Actually,
area.
yeah, they're also in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
What I know
but
about
there's
is the Zimbabwe one.
But within the Lembas, there is a group. So the Lembas claim descent from the Lost Tribes, and there's a group within the Lembas. I can't remember what they're called, and they are the priestly class within that tribe, and they claim to be the equivalent of Kohanim, right? Which is amongst the Jews, Kohanim are the people who descend from Aaron via the father, and there's a genetic marker that's been found that virtually all Kohanim all the different communities have, and it seems that quite a few of the people of this member community who claim to be Kohanim also have that. So I think it's likely that they actually are a lost tribe, and they are very dark-skinned, right, like yourself.
Yeah, well, the point I was trying to make is you were defining the Ethiopians on the basis of race,
No, I
not
wasn't.
based off.
No, I wasn't.
That's how it sounded very
No.
much.
I think I came a bit after that conversation.
Yeah,
I didn't
it
mention
sounded
anything about
very
their
much
colour.
that was connected to the because even
No, nothing to do with that.
even
it's all about
historically-
the tradition.
Yeah.
Historically, it does not look like they were ever Jews. It looks like they were split off from the church there. That looks like what's happened.
it's a matter of research and
Yeah, so
there's
that's
various
if
opinions
you look
amongst
at, if you look,
the
yeah, if you look at the
historians and,
materials that I've put
Yeah.
up there, then you'll see what I'm talking about.
so
I mean, I actually
yeah.
need to go now.
Me too.
because-
So just to conclude then, from an historical perspective, you don't agree with the lady earlier that she was insinuating that Islam and the Prophet Muhammad, we have incidents where certain things happened
Yeah.
based upon, as I mentioned as an example, if you break a law or a treaty, there is obvious consequences. But
Yeah, the
it
issue-
wasn't initiated by the Muslims to
Yeah.
betray and hurt the Jewish community. So
The issue
Islam
was
as a
that it was
religion.
already pre-agreed, and then it was refused after. So like, if I promise you something and then I break that promise, that's not the same as someone not promising you something in the first place. Like if I completely refuse, that's not the same as I agree and then I refuse to do that.
Okay.
Do you not agree with that?
I definitely hear what you're saying.
Do you understand
Yeah,
that
I
part of it?
understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Because obviously in Islam we clearly categorize the people of the book separately to other non-Muslims, and we have a higher allegiance
Historically,
to you.
it has always been the case
Always been
anyway.
like that. We have a higher allegiance to you, and we've expected the same obviously in return because we are an Abrahamic faith and we believe in one God and whatever. So if we have agreed something to you, it is part of our duty to hold ourselves accountable to that.
Right.
Do you know, if you know what I mean?
I hear.
But anyway, your friend earlier acknowledged that the golden age of the Jewish community was under the Islamic rule.
Yeah, in
And the Hebrew-
in Al-Andalus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Andalus.
So-
It was that was a real flourishing of Jewish literature.
Yeah, more from the scientific point of view.
I wouldn't even say flourishing. I would say Renaissance, because a lot of it was lost prior to that to Christian emperors or whatever.
You know, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure about how Jewish life in Spain was pre Al-Andalus,
But
pre the Muslims.
regardless of that, we know how Jewish life
historically,
was
it's
under
known.
Christian
No,
rule.
it's known.
That's the point.
I
It's easy to
personally
look
don't
into
know
it.
that. I don't
I
really know
think
much
we're the
about it.
Visigoths. I'm not sure,
don't
even
know.
though I can't remember,
Really
even
looked
though I'm from Portugal, which is part of our history. but-
I'm not really an expert in the history of the Jews in Spain because it's not so relevant to me. I'm much more focused on the history of Germany and
Would-
northern France.
Yeah.
And
Why
those areas.
why would you specify the worst? Not the worst, because
I'll
under
tell
the
you why,
Babylons,
because
you
that's
guys
what my
were
tradition passes through. My
not-
tradition
well,
passes through.
maybe your family and
Yeah, yeah.
inheritance. That's why.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is, why would we focus on an era of our history which was horrible? But if you go
There were good times.
further
There
back,
were good times.
if you go further back, there is worse. under the Spanish Inquisition. It was far worse. So why would you specify modern history?
I guess because I connect with it more.
Okay.
I connect
Are you
a lot
talking
more.
specifically in the 20th century?
No, I'm
right?
talking
No,
about Bilal. I'm talking,
Okay.
Germany
I'm talking for
and
1,000
Like
years.
the Jewish diaspora.
The Jews in Germany,
Yeah.
it really is so.
Prior to the Second World War.
Yeah, prior to the Second World War, communities in Germany, right, like Frankfurt and
Holland,
Nuremberg
Ukraine.
and Rottenburg, right, these communities in Germany had been going on for over 1,000 years. Mainz and Worms and Speyer, 1,000 years, more than that, right? I mean, there's archaeological evidence of the
Even
Jewish
in Mali,
community-
are you aware of that? That the Jews went to Mali?
Oh yeah, they were
Who
expelled.
to Timbuktu?
They were expelled.
Timbuktu.
Yeah.
And, it's strange.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
They
just
expelled,
learned
the
recently.
same year.
Ajib, these people.
The same year that the Jews were expelled by the Christians in Spain, 1492, the Jews were expelled by the Muslims in Mali in the very same year.
Oh.
Why were the Jews expelled by Muslims in Mali?
I don't know. I think there was a new edict that came in that everyone had to be Muslim, and they expelled all the
That
non-Muslims.
doesn't really
It happened
sound
to be all the
accurate.
non-Muslims
You know
were
why?
Jews.
Because many of the Africans have never left their old traditions.
Yeah.
And they remained up to today in that region, in West Africa. They never left, they never
Well, that's what
embraced
happened in
Islam.
Mali. That's what happened.
Yeah. Mali is a bit funny because it had some
Mali is very
commercial.
disconnected.
It's very financial motivated.
I'm
It's
talking
not
back in the day
religious.
anyway. And also Mansa
politics.
Musa came from Mali as well.
Yeah.
And that says a lot.
And others.
Yeah.
But as in,
Yeah.
money-wise, but
Religious
obviously
guy.
he was a very, for Muslims, one of the most proudest Muslims. What a person
was Muslim?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mansa Musa. Yeah.
I knew he was
He
the
performed
The richest
the
person
pilgrimage.
ever, 400, yeah,
Pilgrimage.
400 billion worth. That's not even 400 million, that's 400 billion.
That's like a million, but with a B.
Yeah.
Um,
Or 400,000 of them.
yeah.
400,000 million worth,
Yeah.
net worth.
But
Well, that's not the measurement of success. And,
True. But we can say that as
and,
Muslims, we're proud that that is something that he accomplished. And he did it being a
African.
I've really gotta
African
go.
Yeah.
Muslim. Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Nice to see you.
Nice
Take
to
care.
see you.
Conversation,
What's your
mate.
name, sorry?
Bilal.
Bilal.
Yeah.
Cool name.
MashaAllah.
Thank you.
Josh.
Josh.
Sultan. Sultan.
Sultan.
Yeah.
Like a sultana.
Like a king.
Sultana is the feminine.
Yeah, come on.
How you doing?
Alhamdulillah.
Sultan, mashallah. Where you from?
My mom's Pakistan.
No, which area?
Oh, London.
London.
I'm from
What
Bristol
about?
originally.
Bristol.
Bristol.
Oh yeah, Bristol.
Yeah.
This guy's got something to show you.
JewsWereHere.com.
Wow, that's interesting. Were you aware of this?
No.
It's the first time.
Yeah, first time.
It's something to look into.
That's quite a funny name for a website, but obviously it makes sense. Because obviously people usually write that in like bathroom stores, like I was here.
Oh, where are the guys? I think I've been left behind. Ooh, I think I've been left behind. Well, are they gone? I mean the Nan and the brothers. Brothers, nice to meet you.